Imagine this. You're late for an important meeting. Traffic is backed up for miles as far as the eye can see. Suddenly you press a button, the doors seal, the dashboard transforms, and in seconds you're soaring above the city. Sounds like a scene from your favorite sci-fi movie, right? But what if I told you that this future is no longer fantasy? It's racing toward our everyday reality even faster than you think? For decades, flying cars have been the stuff of dreams and movie screens. From the Jetsons to Back to the Future, they've symbolized a world where technology breaks every boundary. Now the world stands at the brink of a transportation revolution. The age of flying cars is almost upon us. But behind the shiny promise and jaw-dropping innovation lies a collision course of real-world economic, technological, and ethical challenges. Who gets to own the sky? Who keeps us safe up there? And will these vehicles free us from traffic or create a whole new kind of chaos? Today we'll dive deep into the billion-dollar race for flying cars, focusing on the AirCar, one of the world's most advanced prototypes, which just might be the first to break into our everyday lives. By the end, you'll know what's fact, what's hype, and the crucial questions no one is daring to answer. Let's take a step back and see how we got here. The dream of flying cars didn't start with Hollywood. In fact, inventors have tinkered with flying car concepts for nearly a century. The AVE Mizar attempted to combine a Ford Pinto with the wings of a Cessna Skymaster back in the 1970s, but tragically, that experiment ended in disaster when the prototype crashed during testing, underscoring just how difficult it is to merge the worlds of cars and planes. Fast forward to the present, and a new generation of engineers is determined to succeed where their predecessors failed. The frontrunner in today's race? The AirCar, developed by Slovakian company Klein Vision. It's not just a futuristic rendering, this is a real machine, with an official certificate of airworthiness from the Slovak Transport Authority and over 200 successful takeoffs and landings under its belt. In June 2021, it even completed a 35-minute city-to-city flight, making history as the world watched. So, what makes the AirCar different from previous attempts? First, it doesn't just look like a science project. It's a sleek, road-legal vehicle, complete with a compact design that transforms on command. Its tail and wings retract for driving and extend for flying. In car mode, it can hit 200 kilometers per hour, and in the air, it soars at over 250 kilometers per hour, with a range of up to 1,000 kilometers. For many, the AirCar is the first flying car that could actually fit into our lives, not just our dreams. Stefan Klein, the visionary founder of Klein Vision, describes it as a lifelong dream to bring the freedom of flight into the hands of everyday people. With the AirCar 2, a production-ready prototype, poised to debut, Klein Vision has set a price range between $800,000 and $1 million. That's less than the average private jet, but obviously not within everyone's reach. Still, as with any groundbreaking technology, the first step is just to prove it can be done. And the AirCar isn't flying solo. Companies like Terrafugia have also developed dual-mode vehicles, like the Transition, designed to fit neatly into a standard garage. Meanwhile, investments are pouring into urban air mobility, with consulting giant Booz Allen Hamilton predicting a $500 billion market by 2030. Christian Krom, a noted futurist, believes we should embrace technological progress to overcome social stagnation, and he puts flying cars right at the center of that vision. The excitement is real, but so are the challenges. Because while the AirCar may soon be available for public purchase, the road, or sky, ahead isn't exactly clear. The world's regulatory authorities have only just begun to grapple with the rules for flying vehicles. Who will get pilot's licenses? Will you need a driving license and a pilot's license? How will cities deal with a sudden influx of low-flying aircraft? Then, there are safety concerns. If a car breaks down, you can pull over. If a flying car stalls in midair, the stakes are infinitely higher. The ghost of the AVE Mizar crash still haunts the industry. Engineers are racing to ensure that today's flying cars are equipped with fail-safes, redundancies, and innovative new control systems. A 2021 IEEE Access study highlights exactly this point. Accurate monitoring and control systems are absolutely essential to prevent collisions, especially during potential rush hours in urban skies. And let's not forget about public perception. Surveys show that people who already drive are a little more open to the idea of flying cars. But for many, the thought of sharing the skies with dozens, hundreds of flying vehicles is as terrifying as it is thrilling. What will it take for the average person to trust a flying car as much as they do a bus, train, or traditional automobile? And what about the noise? If you've ever lived near an airport, you know that even a small plane overhead can shatter the peace for miles around. Developers are working on electric propellers and quieter engines, but will that be enough to convince cities to let these machines take off, literally and figuratively? The economic potential is massive. Proponents argue that flying cars could cut down on road construction costs, reduce traffic, and make cross-city commutes faster and more reliable. As Adekunle Mofolosayo points out, flying car technology promises more reliable travel times and could drastically decrease reliance on traditional infrastructure. But these benefits come with a hefty price tag and complex questions. Who builds and pays for the new sky-high highways? Who manages this airspace? And how do authorities prevent accidents and traffic jams in the sky? Meanwhile, the cybersecurity threat looms large. Modern flying cars are essentially computers with wings, relying on software for navigation, safety, and communication. As these vehicles become more connected, they also become more vulnerable. What happens if a hacker takes control of a flying car mid-flight? It's a nightmare scenario that regulators and engineers are racing to prevent. But as recent events in traditional car hacking have shown, no system is truly impervious. Public acceptance also remains a barrier. Sure, the cool factor is off the charts, but for many, safety and trust will be the real test. Insurance companies are just beginning to assess the risks, and it's unclear how policies would be structured or priced. Will you need a special flight insurance? What would a crash in downtown Manhattan or Paris look like, and who would be liable? Zooming out, the big question remains. Will flying cars truly revolutionize urban mobility and reshape our cities? Or will they become a luxury gadget for the ultra-rich, existing more as a symbol of what could have been? As we approach the launch window for vehicles like the AirCar 2, the world stands at a crossroads. Regulatory bodies in Europe and the US are scrambling to write new rules, even as investors pour billions into the promise of urban air mobility. Futurists dream of a sky filled with sleek hybrids and silent propellers, but city planners, police, and politicians struggle to keep up. The intrigue? As the AirCar's commercial debut draws near and competitors gear up for their own launches, we're on the verge of seeing the first flying cars in the hands of everyday people. But who will truly benefit? Will the sky become the new playground of the ultra-wealthy? Or will new innovations make this technology accessible to all? And, perhaps most crucial of all, can society adapt quickly enough to handle this paradigm shift without disaster? In our next segment, we'll explore the hidden battlegrounds, the emerging technology war between rival companies, government power struggles, and the silent risks that could make or break the flying car dream. Stay tuned, because the story of the AirCar is about to take flight in ways no one expected. Picture a city skyline not just as a collection of high-rises, but as a multi-layered grid where vehicles ascend and descend between invisible highways in the sky. In this new frontier, the AirCar and its rivals could transform not just how we move, but how we organize and experience urban life itself. But with this technological leap comes a cascade of new questions and consequences. Who gains when the boundaries between roads and airspace dissolve? Will flying cars herald a new age of personal freedom or deepen old divides? Let's fast forward. It's 2026. The AirCar 2, with its sci-fi silhouette and telescoping wings, rolls off assembly lines. A select group of early adopters, tech moguls, high-net-worth commuters, and thrill-seeking entrepreneurs snag the first models for just under $1 million each. On social media, videos go viral. A Klein Vision pilot transitions from city street to open sky in minutes, soaring over gridlocked highways below. The promise is dazzling: instantaneous vertical liberty, the ultimate solution to urban congestion. But very quickly, the reality turns out to be more complicated. Flying cars will likely change the face of mobility, says Adekunle Mofolosayo, a transportation analyst, but only if we solve the challenges of not just technology, but social adaptation and infrastructure. First, there's the issue of airspace. Unlike traditional cars, flying cars carry the potential for three-dimensional congestion. Think of rush hour not on an expressway but above it, with hundreds, perhaps thousands of vehicles cutting through different altitudes and directions. Even with advanced AI traffic control, mistakes and malfunctions can't be fully ruled out. The IEE Access Report from 2021 highlights the need for hyper-accurate monitoring and automated collision avoidance systems, especially as adoption scales. Then there's noise pollution. Electrically driven propellers may help, but the idea of dozens of flying cars landing, taking off, and hovering over neighborhoods is already facing pushback from environmental and community groups. City planners from Paris to Tokyo are debating new zoning ordinances. Should flying cars be banned from flying over schools and hospitals? Can public green spaces be repurposed as urban skyports? Cybersecurity looms as another major battleground. As flying cars become as software-dependent as smartphones, vulnerabilities multiply. Hackers could theoretically seize control of navigation systems, reroute vehicles at will, or even immobilize fleets unless a ransom is paid. The nightmare scenario? A coordinated cyber attack causing chaos in the skies. Industry insiders warn that without rigorous international standards and continuous threat analysis, the dream of safe personal flight could turn into a security liability. And what about public acceptance? While driving enthusiasts show more interest in the flying car revolution, a large segment of the population remains skeptical. The image of a flying car crashing, like the AVE Mizar disaster in 1973, haunts the public imagination. Aviation regulators proceed cautiously, balancing innovation against the risk of high-profile accidents that could stall public trust for a generation. Economically, the stakes are monumental. Booz, Allen & Hamilton forecast a $500 billion market in urban air mobility by 2030. The first companies to crack the code, whether it's Klein Vision, a Silicon Valley upstart, or a surprise player from China, could reshape not just the transportation sector, but the entire structure of modern cities. Roads may become less congested as wealthier commuters take to the skies, but does this risk creating a new kind of transport elite? Will flying cars deepen the gap between those who can afford to rise above it all and those left in the daily grind below? At the same time, there are tantalizing opportunities. If costs fall, as they often do when new tech matures, flying cars could offer lifelines to rural or remote communities, making fast medical evacuations or supply deliveries routine. Disaster response teams may use them to reach otherwise inaccessible areas. There's even conversation among city planners about how air mobility could render some costly infrastructure, like the never-ending expansion of highways or bridges, obsolete. As Mofolosayo puts it, reduced road construction costs and reliable travel times could fundamentally shift urban budgets and priorities. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. For now, owning an AirCar remains a luxury. Retail prices start at $800,000, not including the headache of double licensing, both a driver's and a pilot's certificate. Insurance giants are scrambling to assess risk. Is a flying car more likely to collide with birds or with an amateur-piloted drone? Who's liable in a mid-air fender bender above a crowded city? And yet, where wealth and prestige go, technology follows. The first wave of AirCar owners may spark a new kind of arms race among automakers, aerospace firms, and software giants. Expect AI-powered autopilot suites, automatic emergency landing commands, and safe sky corridors to become buzzwords. Even for those of us watching from the ground, the world is about to change. So what does all this mean for you, the everyday viewer, the commuter, the city dweller, the dreamer of sci-fi futures? First, it's a window into what happens when an old promise of technology suddenly gets real. Flying cars might not show up in your neighborhood tomorrow, but the pace of change is accelerating. A decade ago, the idea of a car that transforms into a plane on command was a fantasy. Today, it's on the verge of market launch. If you're interested in technology, urban planning, or the future of mobility, now is the time to pay attention. Regulations are still being written. Public debates over privacy, safety, and access are open for your voice. New industries, skyport operators, aerial maintenance crews, hybrid vehicle instructors, will spring up, creating new kinds of jobs and skills. If you're young and thinking about your career, this could be your generation's space race. And this isn't just a story about hardware. The AirCar's software backbone is arguably as revolutionary as its folding wings. As cities move towards smarter networks and vehicles become more autonomous, questions about data, algorithmic fairness, and machine learning in transportation will decide who benefits most from this revolution. Are our streets and skies being designed for all people, or just a select few? For urban dwellers, AirCar's advance is a nudge to think differently about space. Parking garages may morph into vertical charging pads. Rooftop gardens could double as takeoff zones. City skylines, once static, will become dynamic, with the visible motion of vehicles above changing how we experience our environment. The old boundaries between neighborhood and outskirts may blur as 10-minute flights replace hour-long drives. But there are important lessons for skeptics, too. Every disruptive technology faces pushback. When the first automobiles appeared, many saw them as dangerous, noisy nuisances. Cities banned cars from park roads and required a walking escort with a red flag. In time, the world adapted, sometimes clumsily, but almost always in ways no one could have predicted. With flying cars, adaptation will be just as messy and just as full of opportunity. For those focused on environmental concerns, now is the chance to push for electrification, noise limits, and green mobility standards. For cybersecurity advocates, it's crucial to demand robust, open systems from day one. And for everyday citizens, the best defense against tech-driven inequality is to engage, ask questions, attend public hearings, and make sure these new roads in the sky are paved for everyone, not just the elite. All of this boils down to a simple truth. Technology is only as transformational as the society that shapes and is shaped by it. The AirCar is not just a new toy for the rich or a futuristic headline. It's a mirror reflecting our ambitions, our fears, and our hopes for what mobility can be. Will we rise above old problems or just recreate them among the clouds? So, who will truly benefit from the arrival of flying cars? Initially, it'll be the innovators, investors, and early adopters, the ones with the money and mindset to take risks. But over time, as costs fall, as regulations evolve, and as public trust grows, the circle will widen. If we get it right, the AirCar could unlock faster commutes, safer emergency responses, and more connected cities for all. But if we ignore the lessons of the past about safety, equity, and inclusion, this new age could merely reproduce old inequalities at a higher altitude. Here's a secret most headlines haven't told you. The biggest challenge for flying cars isn't the engineering, it's us. Our rules, our acceptance, our willingness to adapt. Flying cars like the AirCar aren't just testing new engines, they're testing society's ability to reinvent itself on the fly. So as we stand on the edge of the next transportation revolution, the real question may not be whether society can adapt, but whether we choose to. Will you be part of the conversation, or will you let the future take off without you? If you want to shape the future of urban mobility, now's the time. Subscribe for deep dives into the technologies that will define our lives and share your thoughts. Do you dream of flying above the gridlock, or do you fear the chaos in the clouds? Drop your